It's communion, Russ.
I'm going to confess, this is not the first time John and I have drank out of the same glass. Coming to you uproariously live from the subterranean confines of the Trapdoor Restaurant on Washington Street in dynamic downtown Greenville, South Carolina. I'm Russ Heaps, and welcome to this episode of Big John and Five. It's where I get my good buddy here, Big John Richards, to grab a beer out of the cooler or pull one off the tap here at the Trapdoor, and we sniff it, we sip it, we kibitz about it. Sometimes John tells us a little bit about the brewery, sometimes we'll learn a little bit about brewing. And our concentration today, because we are in the Trapdoor, which is a Belgian restaurant and tap room, our concentration, the episodes we're doing today, is Belgian beer. John, what do we have?
Belgian beer.
See how we're sticking to the theme?
Yeah. So we've had a little journey today, learning about some Belgian beers, and we got talking about pouring beers in our last segment, which you can find on Beer to Whiskey.
Yes.
That's what we call a teaser.
Yes.
So we were talking about the way the pouring these beers that are the bottle conditioned beers of Belgian note. They need to have their carbonation released because they've had a secondary fermentation inside the bottles. They're just full of fresh, real, natural carbonation.
Belgian-y goodness.
Belgian-y goodness. And Duvel is one of the greatest examples, and that's why we have this weird, rambunctious looking setup in front of us here, because I'm going to attempt to pour this Duvel into that Duvel glass, it promises to be an adventure. The Duvel's a real lively beer, and that's why we have this voluptuous glass in front of us here. I mean, that's a real handful.
And this is a glass that they designed specifically for Duvel beer.
The D and the D and the D, they all match.
Double D.
They all match.
Double Ds.
Triple D in this case.
Triple Ds. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Nothing to see here, folks.
This is sort of a PG thing.
Right. So the fun thing about these, it is highly carbonated, but it's properly carbonated. And one of the ways you can tell is when you pop the top, it doesn't come exploding out of the top of the bottle. It happens a lot with beer. When you pop the top, if it explodes and starts running over the top, that's incorrect. That's a brewing fault. In fact, if that beer got sent to a competition, it would be removed from the table. It would be taken out of consideration. They wouldn't even taste it or give it a grade.
Get the hook.
Yeah.
Get the hook.
Right. Just get the hook. You get the gong.
Yeah.
So having that, you see those 8 or 10 bubbles that were released in the top of that bottle. When I pour this into this glass, it is going to positively explode. And you really need to pour your Belgian beer right directly into the bottom of the glass. So we're going to attempt to do this the correct way. You want an easy pour because there's a little bit of sediment in the bottom of the bottle that you really don't want to get up into the beer.
Unless you're him.
Unless you're me. Unless you do want it to get up into the bottom of the beer. But you see how much that beer is just exploding as it pours? And it's pouring, I'm pouring even a little heavy. So our idea is that we're going to get this just to where it's pushing the top of the glass, and we're going to be at the bottom of the bottle. And I've got a little bit heavy with it. There's an ounce left in the bottom of that bottle. But if you get your Duvel poured properly, it should look like that. And if it doesn't, you're getting it from the wrong people, because it needs to push all that carbonation out for it to be able to work. So we've put there's a little bit left in here. I'm going to put in my glass.
So what's going to happen is this episode is going to be continued to next week while we let this 4-inch head
No, 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 no. We're not going to do that at all. That is secondarily a misunderstanding about what this means. That beer's done. That beer's ready to drink. That's part of the magic of having this kind of glass too. So this is going to kind of turn into the community glass. We were talking about that before we sat down here because
like at the Last Supper or communion
right
or something.
So you see all the bubbles coming up from the bottom. There's a little laser etching
wow.
on the bottom that's actually making this beer continue to release carbonation. It's going to continue to do that over the course of your
You guys cannot
beverage.
see this, but it looks like Old Faithful coming
Yep.
up from the bottom of this glass.
So you want to sip this beer right through that, and that beer that gets all rocky up on top. It gets, you see those big, heavy, rocky bubbles up there. They're not going to go away anytime real soon. So you can just go ahead and pick this glass up with all that head right there. And you sip right through it.
Do you have a cloth I can
Beer's
wipe
so
that
good.
off?
Now you should pick the other side. It's communion, Russ.
I'm going to confess, this is not the first time John and I have drank out of the same glass.
It's the best time. That beer is so big and so bitter on the finish. That is so much fun.
Now what is, we didn't really talk about what it is.
So this is a Belgian Golden Strong Ale, and it's kind of its own designation of beer. A lot of the Belgian Golden Strong Ale that's not triple is pointing back to this beer, almost all of it. And that's why you see so many beers that use a devil or a demon of some kind, or the word devil, or some reference to the devil on their label, because they're hearkening back to this beer. Duvel, or Duvel, Duval is an American actor of some renown.
Who's supposed to be an old sourpuss that nobody wants to work with.
Right.
So go ahead.
Right. So I don't, of the two pronunciations, that being the least useful of the pronunciations that I think for this, Duvel and Duvel seem to be equally correct. But it's the Belgian word for devil. And so I've my brain has just made it Duvel because I like the way it sounds. But the reason it's called that, when this beer was brewed, it was served to the king, and the king took a sip of the beer and said, wow, that is a devil of a beer. Because that beer is 8.5%, and it is ridiculously easy to drink. It is big and quite bitter on the finish. It is really got a great, clean, lingering kind of floral and peppery bitterness on the finish.
It does, but boy, what's the ABV?
8.5, and you had no idea.
You would have no idea.
I mean,
because I could sit here and drink 3 or 4 of those
Yes.
without giving it a second
The
thought.
first beer we had today was a Pilsner, and this beer doesn't taste any bigger than that beer did.
No, nope, no.
And I think that's what the king was referencing. And it's remarkable. And this beer has probably a dozen or more Best Beer in the World awards to its name.
As well it should.
And as well it should. It is.
See, I'm drinking, while he's talking, I'm drinking because I don't want him to get more than I get.
That's the way communion works. That's the reason this beer has gotten so much love from other brewers trying to brew something like it, because it is just remarkably good, remarkably well balanced.
How old is this? Do you know off the top of your head how old this brewery is?
You know what? I don't know. It's not just Duvel anymore, and this is all a product of the Morgat family. But this beer got so successful, and so did the family, that they have appropriated some other labels into the family. It's still a family-owned company. The Duvel Morgat company is still owned by the Morgat family.
But they make more stuff than this.
So now they make 3 or 4 different kinds of Duvel now. There's a triple hop Duvel. There's a Duvel 666. That's 6.66% alcohol. So it's a little lighter version of this. there's at least one other Duvel that's not coming to my mind right now that's based on this same on the same recipe. But they also own De Koning, that's in Antwerp. They own Merissu, one of the Belgian Abbey brews. They own Boulevard Brewing from Kansas City, and Ommegang out of Cooperstown, New York, both making great Belgian-style beers, and 10 or 12 other smaller breweries on top of that. So they have a bunch of different brewery names under their Duvel Morgat family now. But
Nice.
I think Duvel was first made in the 1800 somethings. But I won't swear to that on camera. I'll just guess.
Okay.
You can correct me on the bottom.
I will. Because I take great joy in that.
Right.
Great joy.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I think we covered a lot there. I think we can let these people go.
Okay, you're gonna have to use that if we're gonna clink at the
Right.
end. So, I'm lucky. See you next time.